All right, everybody. Sorry for the antiquated introduction. We are still working on our intro for the afternoon show. So today you get me, Gonzo's powers out, I think due to the weather, and you get my boy Steeler Nation, aka Kenny Casa freaking Nova. What's up, Killer? How you doing today?
Hey, what's up, you guys? How y'all doing?
All right.
Man,
I'm
just
doing
living the
good.
life. Living life.
He said living life, man. When you got a living room like that, you're doing pretty good, right? When did this all get me a living room like that? All right. Anyway, let's jump right
Definitely.
into it. Let's talk about. So
Yeah.
viewers, viewers has
Hey, I would.
decided he wants to turn down his $8 million NIL deal to go with a different team, and he's going to take on the NFL draft. Now, it's interesting. He's turning down $8 million. He's projected either a late first round all the way into the third round. I don't think he slips out of the third round. I think by the third round, he'll get picked up. But even at that level, you're looking at a 4-year, maybe $11 to $13 million deal. He makes more in 1 year on that NIL deal if he stays one more year in college than he will in 2 to 3 years in the contract. What do you think about that, man? I don't get it. Me personally, I think about taking that $8 million. Maybe got one more year of experience and then jumped into the draft class, especially if I'm projected to go first through third or late first through third. What do you think, Kenny?
Well, yeah, man. I think I'm not gonna lie. The NIL money make you want to stay every time. It really does, especially if in this type of draft class, there's not too many outside of the top two. I don't really trust the other guys at all in this draft class. It's tough. He's
Right,
a legit guy, a legit player. I just don't know. I don't know about him yet at the NFL level.
right. Yeah, he's predicted to be in the 101. He's like number 101 in the rankings, right? They get him ranked at 101. They get him ranked at eighth in the quarterback
Wow.
position. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not. This draft stock is not exactly high. I think that Georgia game kind of took him out of it when he got blown
Mm-mm.
out, and then they put Archie Manning in there, and then they went back to Ewers. I think the fumble that he had in that fourth quarter, which ultimately took Texas out of contention for winning that game. Those kinds of things are really going to hamper him big time. And I think I would have came back for one more year of eligibility just to kind of right that wrong up a little bit and improve my draft stock because his draft stock isn't looking too good right now. What are you thinking?
Mm-mm. Yeah, his draft stock. Yeah, I kind of what I do every year is I always rank the quarterbacks. Like I go top five, and I do like a film breakdown on them. He comes across to me outside of Cam Ward and Shador. I can see him maybe three, but even in that, it's such a big drop off from Cam Ward and Shador to him that I don't know what team is going to be willing to risk taking him like in the maybe outside of the third round, maybe you go third, but if you come back next year, get another year, $8 million on top of that, I
Yeah.
might I probably would have stayed if I was him. That's why
Yeah.
when Carson Beck changed his mind, I wasn't mad at him for doing it because I was like, he's not ready. He's not ready.
Yeah, I feel you. And that's the
Yeah,
thing. I feel like, it is a weak draft class for quarterbacks. It is. But even with that, he had a weak performance in 2024. He was
it is.
projected at the very beginning of it all before the Georgia game, before that Georgia game ever even happened. He was projected to possibly be in the Heisman running. But when that Georgia game slapped him in the face, it took him out of competition for everything. And I'm thinking, like, why would you go in the NFL now with your crappy draft stock and then make less than the 1 year of NIL money? Now, I will say this: the one good thing that could be a blessing is 9 times out of 10, those first couple of teams that's probably drafting right now are the Jets, the Titans, the Giants. I mean, there's a
Yeah,
lot of teams. I mean, the Giants' job doesn't look
the
too bad to me
Browns.
because I like Dable, but I think I would. The only good thing to him coming in the draft this time is maybe he gets picked up by a contender team that just need, and maybe he sits back behind the starter and just gets, clipboard reps and maybe picks up experience that way. That could be beneficial than maybe him becoming the automatic starter at, let's say, Raiders or Titans or whatever, and he's not ready for the job. And then you kind of have an Aaron Darnold or even a Wilson type experience that they did with the Jets, right? When you're not ready.
Yeah. Yeah, so I definitely agree with that. Him, like I said, it all depends on the organization you go to. Because if you go to the
Right.
McVays or the Shanahans, Kevin O'Connell, any of those guys, you'll be good. They're like quarterback
Yeah.
gurus. So I'm cool with him going to a situation like that and sitting behind for for a couple years and just seeing if he can even develop further in the league. Because
Right.
I definitely think he is a starter. But I can't say 100% though.
I'm in the belief system that I think Ewers, and this is just
Yeah.
my opinion, but I believe Ewers is better than JJ McCarthy, as a quarterback. I think he's better than JJ. And I wouldn't be surprised. I
Got
still
it.
don't think JJ is fully solidified in Minnesota. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded JJ McCarthy and picked up Ewers and picked him up in the latter rounds where he's not quite as expected. Remember, when they picked up McCarthy, they picked him up in the first round, so they had to pay him first round money. And if you're not really sold on him being your guy, why not trade out of him, bring in a guy like Ewers, pick him up in the second or third round, whatever, get him at a really bargain basement price, send him up behind Darnold, and see if he could be your next Kirk Cousins, possibly.
Not listen, that's definitely an option. I think with JJ McCarthy, the intriguing part about him is last year, like I said, I do a film study on these guys. And what I seen from him that I say this, but his tape is very similar to Joe Burrow. Now that's a lot of praise to heap on him. But I definitely see some Joe Burrow similar. Might have been the number 9 at Michigan that may have threw me off. But I see some similarities. He's athletic enough to play quarterback. He can get out of the pocket enough. His accuracy down the field is really good. My
Right.
thing is this: are you not sold on Sam Darnold? I don't know if he. I don't because he's been injured all year. So and then the offensive line is bad. I don't think a lot of people talking about that. That offensive line is awful, and I just think they might have either been just injured or just was a bad group. But I mean, I don't blame all 9 sacks on Sam Darnold, but he definitely got his share of it. I think a lot of times with Sam Darnold is he held on to that ball long enough because he knew he had
Yeah.
playmakers down the field. I kind of wish Kevin O'Connell
Yes.
would have shortened up the
Absolutely.
route so that he could get it out quicker against that blitz.
Yes. Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you. Sam Darnold, I
Yeah,
mean, the
I don't
O-line
know
didn't
about
do him any
10 years
favors.
to me.
Okay. The O-line didn't.
Kind of, you know, yeah, they didn't. Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Yeah.
They
I mean, they
definitely
didn't
did
do
not
him any favors.
do him any favors
Yeah, I will say this.
for sure.
One of the similarities that Ewers has with Darnold is the fact, like you said a second ago, Darnold holds on to the ball too long, especially when that pocket's collapsing the way it's collapsing. He had to have a much quicker read. Now, he was in a bad position, so I do give Sam Darnold a pass on that game because of the O-line play. But Ewers has the same problem that Darnold has. If you watch that game, the last game that when Texas played Ohio State, Ewers, number one, held on the
Yes.
ball too long. Number two, he was not aware of pocket awareness. So those are the two biggest things: pocket awareness, hold on to the ball too long, not having that internal clock telling you, hey, I need to get rid of this ball. I need to get it out of here. I need to get it out of my hands. Because really on that last play, they got to the red zone. They really did. They got to the red zone twice. They got to the red zone once where they was on the first yard line. And I think there was a Wisner play that lost them 7 yards. They had a couple of incompletes and then the fumble. Now, when they had the fumble, they were already about 10 to 11 yards outside of the one. So a lot of things went wrong on that. And a lot of that, I tell you, Ewers was responsible for a lot of that misconception happening at the 1 yard line and so forth. So yeah, I think he does have a problem like that. And I think that's where him sitting with the clipboard behind a Sam Darnold or whatever. Let Kevin O'Connell or that quarterback's coach develop him, get him that pocket presence. Because those are two things. Honestly, if you have a guy who's got pretty decent football IQ, you should be able to knock that out in a year or two in development, right? Put him in some situations and let him get developed and let him get it. I don't think that's a hard thing to develop. Not like mechanics or anything else, but pocket awareness, holding the ball, you can work on those things.
Yep, I agree. I agree.
And then you look, we got to say our rest in peace.
I definitely agree with that. I think.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, San Francisco is in a weird spot because of the Brock Purdy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree with you on that. I definitely agree with San Francisco and Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like we got a little bit of delay between me and Kenny. Kenny, I apologize, man. I'm gonna have to put a little gap in my talk too, so I think we can sync up a little bit. I think it must be our connection, but in any event, I want to turn our attention over real quick to Bob Uecker. Man, it's tragic, man. It's tragic to see, one of my favorite personalities behind the mic, not with us any longer. I mean, God rest his soul. He is 90 years old, so Bob lived a long and colorful life. I remember him back in Major League and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the guy just made me laugh 24/7, and it really is. Him, Howard Cosell, and a few others, Alberts, and the Schwami. There's a lot of guys out there that even the Stephen A's that had that personality that really just gravitate you towards whatever sporting event you're watching. So those kinds of broadcasters, they don't come around very often. And so it's sad to see Bob Uecker go, but what a hell of a life. 90 years old. I'll be lucky if I see 85. Did you get that? Okay, Kenny?
Yeah, yes. I seen that when you guys posted it today. I was like, wow, one of the legendary voices of baseball, man. I mean, him, Howard Cosell, yeah, like you were saying, man. Them names are synonymous with their sport, man. Catchphrases and things of that nature, man. I'm telling you, always makes the game more interesting on top of our with the action that's going on. So always is sad to see, the forefathers, the ones that started this thing, pass away. He lived a long life though, so that's an amazing thing.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, he is definitely going to be missed by a lot of people. A lot of people. And Stat Guy was telling me that he's even still, or he was broadcasting, even with the Milwaukee Brewers, very, very long. I mean, all the way up almost to his death, almost. I mean, he was very active even in his latter years. And it's incredible to see a guy that is that energetic, that had that kind of longevity, man. It was just amazing to see. I'm gonna real quick switch over to Dante Johnson. Oh, by the way, Billy Buzz, man, it's good to see you, brother. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen you, man, but it's good to see you back, man. And yeah, Milwaukee Brewers, baby. I mean, that was like their staple, right? I mean, as much as anything else. By the way, I got a lot of cat hair on my hat. I'm just now seeing that. Can't keep a cat off your hat. That sounds like a slogan for something. But anyway, yeah, it's Bob Uecker's he's been in so many things. Like I said, I remember him so much from Major League, and I can't tell you how much I was laughing over Bob Uecker. I still laugh a lot over some of the Bob Uecker takes. But turning our attention over to Dante Johnson for a second. Obviously, the Ravens have picked him up. I don't know why they picked up Johnson. He's not eligible for the playoffs. It seems like, I think, I want to say Bo from Coast to Coast was saying that I think this is like his fifth organization now in matter of just a year's time. So it's interesting to see that. Let me bring Kenny back in here. All right, Kenny, how's that about? Are we a little bit better to see? Okay. Yeah, it was hard,
Yeah, I
man,
think
because
it is
we were
now.
so out of sync, and I was
There
trying
we
to
go.
figure out when you were talking, when
Yeah.
I was talking. So now I think we're all one sync. I switched over to Dante Johnson, Kenny. I want to kind of get your thoughts on this pickup. So the Ravens have signed Dante Johnson. As you know, the last organization he was with was the Houston Texans. They obviously cut him. They felt like he was kind of a cancer, like he wasn't fitting there and gelling in the locker room. This guy, Kenny, if you remember, last year he started out with Carolina. Then I think he went to the Giants, or there was another organization that he went to. I don't think it was the Giants. It was another organization, Steelers. It was the Steelers. He went from Carolina to Pittsburgh, then to Baltimore. Then he got released by Baltimore, and he got picked up by the Texans. And then the Texans released him, only to get signed back around to his original team a while back of Baltimore. So now he's with Baltimore, but he's not on the playoff roster because he missed the window to join. So I can't for the life of me figure out why they would pick up this guy unless, and it has been floated around on Coast to Coast, that maybe they picked him up as a way to get a pick. You're right. They're going to hold on to him, see if somebody wants him, and then try to trade him for a pick. I think they're using him as trade bait almost, rather than trying to fill out a roster spot. But what do you think about this whole Dante Johnson craziness, Kenny?
Well, as a Steeler fan, I know Deontay Johnson through and through. We drafted him. He's a really good player, but he's terrible for your locker room, and that's always been
Right.
an issue in Pittsburgh. I remember, I want to say, probably a little bit over a year. Him and Mika Fitzpatrick had gotten to literally a fist fight in the locker room at halftime, and I'm just like in the middle of a game, like, and it's all because Deontay Johnson just running his mouth, and Mika's like, enough, enough, and it happened, and
Hey, Kenny, check your microphone, Bubba.
he
You
just
dropped out. I think you're there. You go. Now you're
he
back.
seems he just can't control his emotions because okay.
There you go. No, you're back now. I
You can
think
hear
your
me now.
microphone
All
was.
right.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
got you.
no,
You're good.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so yeah, I just think the problem with Deontay Johnson is terrible for your locker room. He's not good enough. He's
Hey,
not an
don't move
Antonio
too
Brown where
much.
you like,
Every time you move, your microphone goes out. Stay close. Stay focused.
oh, every time I move. Oh,
Yeah,
crazy.
every time you move, man, I
There we
lose you.
go.
I
There we
lose your
go. There we
mic.
go. Yeah, it's like with Deontay. That's crazy. Let me flip it over like that. There we go. Okay, yeah. So Deontay Johnson is just bad for your locker room. He's just bad for your locker room. But on the field, he's not good enough to where you're like, oh yeah, he can stay. It's like, nah, bro, we can find somebody to do what you do. And that's his issue right now. He's going through the. I don't know where he's going to. I don't know where he's going to sign after the year. I have no idea. I don't know if anybody want to deal with the headache because it ain't like your Antonio Brown where production makes up for. You can have a tolerance with it with somebody like AB because he giving you this on the field. But Deontay Johnson, you're not. You're not Antonio Brown.
Oh, for sure. And and then kind of getting more. I guess I'm going to kind of shift a little bit into the coaching realm and talk a little bit about coaching and coaches and our coaching vacancy positions. You know that Ben Johnson looks like to be the front runner out there with the Raiders. Obviously, Vrabel just got signed on with the New England Patriots and things of that nature. Now you're looking at who's going to be out in Chicago. Chicago, they look like they're interviewing McCarthy and a lot of other players outside of that. The Cowboys have now been linked to prime time, and then you got Robert Salah coming in for an interview. It looks like what's his name? The Seattle Pete Carroll has been heard that he might be putting his hat into the ring for the Cowboys job as he tries to get into coaching. Then you got Belichick, who still has not signed his contract, by the way, to be with North Carolina. So could he get bought out and could he go to another NFL franchise and not even suit up for the Tar Heels coaching job, right? So there's a lot of questions out there with a lot of different coaches. I mean, Eric Glenn is out there with Monken is out there. There's a lot of really good defensive and offensive coordinators, Kenny, that are out there that are looking for head coaching jobs. You know, where do you see, like, is there anybody you think that Dallas should pick up? You know, I guess that Prime's been, the most intriguing candidate that they've had out there.
For Dallas, the problem is Jerry Jones. Who wants to deal with that? And it's one of those things where who's going to want to, because you're going to have to come under a subject. And so who's going to want to do that? That's going to be the question. Are you going to want to work for Jerry Jones, basically, and have to deal with him basically over you, talking for you, and everything to the media? It's a lot to deal with. Now, that's why I don't think him and Dion will work, because Dion comes across to me as a coach that, nah, I'm going to tell the story. I don't want the AD to do it. I don't want nobody else. I'm going to tell the story. I think the guy that's probably going to get the job is probably going to be Kellen Moore. I must call it right now before it happens. It's going to be Kellen Moore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
That's what
Kellen
I see.
Moore has
I
been
can see
linked.
Kellen Moore getting that job for sure.
Huh. But Billy says, I don't want Prime. Deion Sanders is our head coach. Can't stand him. You know, hey, Billy, I understand where you're coming from. You know, Prime can be a little full of himself a lot of times and self-promoting and things of that nature. But you know what? He still commands a locker room. He still has a relationship with a lot of these guys. He still has a way of connecting with these guys. And I think if he has the right coordinator offensively and defensively, to where all he has to do is just be a game manager and keep his guys focused, I think Prime can be very good for our team. But he's going to want to coach the way he wants to coach and not necessarily maybe the way Jerry wants him to coach. And I think that could be where there might be an issue. Because remember, this same guy who didn't like the way Jimmy Johnson coached because Jimmy didn't want to let Jerry be Jerry. And ultimately, that's what cost Jimmy his job. And I don't know if Deion comes in and wants to be Deion and Jerry wants to cut into his prime time. That's not going to sit well with him. And that's the only thing that scares me about this marriage is I just don't know if the two of them are going to be able to be in sync with each other, because Jerry is the GM, whether we want him or not. He's the GM. And so we're stuck with him. So you got to find a coach that is willing to deal with the likes of a Jerry Jones. And it's not a coveted job like Troy Aikman said. It's just not. Why is it not a coveted job, Kenny? They're $19 million in the hole. They got dead cap money with Amari Cooper and Ezekiel Elliott. They got to get their own guys re-signed. They got injuries to Dak Prescott. It seems like every other week. There's a lot. Bland is obviously out. There's a lot of key guys that have injuries on the defense. Trey Diggs is still down. I mean, it's not. And then again, like I said, you got to do it Jerry Jones, which I think is the biggest pitfall of itself. Is not many people want to have their jobs dictated to them by the owner. And I think that is the biggest sticking point. Kenny, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually agree with everything you just said, man. Like that, the biggest problem is Jerry Jones. He has to. I think he should not be the GM. Just be the owner.
Oh, I know. I
Be
agree.
the owner of the team, man. Your team is worth a lot of money, and I think him being the GM scaring a lot of guys away. Like, listen, I'm an interview because it's the Cowboys, but I don't necessarily want to take this job. That's why I think Kellen Moore is probably going to be the guy, is because he was there before. And Jerry, no offense to Kellen Moore, he can run him. You don't have a cachet like a Dion or Belichick or somebody like that where you're not finna run these guys. You're just not. You're not gonna be able to do the same things that you do. It's gonna be a clash. And so I think that's why it's not a coveted job, because who really wants to deal with Jerry? He's so stuck in his ways. It's like, yeah, I'm cool, man. I'm gonna sit this one out. Dion immediately came out and said, "You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and stay here. I'm good. I love Jerry though."
Yeah, me too, man. Hey, a lot of people love Jerry. I will tolerate. I tell you what, this look, I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm not a Jerry Jones fan. I'm not. So I tolerate Jerry. I don't love Jerry, but I tolerate Jerry. And I think a lot of Cowboys fans tolerate Jerry. You know, it said, "Yes, Kenny, it's Jerry Jones. Sell the team. You're just a money man. You don't know football." You know, that's the thing. You know, if he's such a money man, and he is a money man, believe me, nobody can keep merchandise sales at the top of the spectrum, and you haven't been to the Super Bowl in 30 years. Yeah, you're definitely a money man. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, you know, are you really a good businessman when you're the GM of your team and you know that you're not really doing your team a disservice being the GM, but yet you're the owner and you're Jerry Jones and you're going to be the GM regardless of whether it's a good idea or not? I mean, there are some things where I think Jerry Jones is absolutely amazing at in terms of his skill sets and what it brings to the Cowboys. But then there is a certain part of Jerry that doesn't do good business for the Cowboys. And he doesn't do good business when he's the GM and he's bringing in the wrong coaches. And we haven't been to the Super Bowl in 30 years. So I think he's a good businessman in some aspects, but there are some aspects where he is not a good businessman. Yeah, Jerry, like I said, he broke Johnson out because Jerry don't know when to shut up. You're right. That's exactly right. And at 82 years old, he doesn't seem like he's slowing down to ever shut up. So I think the team is obviously probably going to get passed down to Stephen Jones at some point. My hope, my desire is that Stephen Jones isn't like his pop. And I hope that apple doesn't fall far from the tree because I need a guy to actually hire a GM, actually hire a coaching staff, and then put the Cowboys back in contention. And right now, with him being, if he tries to be the GM like his dad, it's going to be a very long life for me. It's never going to come to an end because I can't watch more of the same. I can't, Kenny, I can't do it. But let's talk about other coaching spots. You know, who would you think would be good? Do you think Ben Johnson's going to go to the Raiders? Where do you see Ben Johnson most likely getting to be a head coach at?
So Ben Johnson, to me, man, I ain't gonna lie. I feel like everybody else feels about him. This dude's a genius. He's amazing. He knows how to call an offense. Now I worry about him in the running the team aspect. That's the only thing where I always say I want to see it. Now the Raiders are a very interesting situation because I think they're going to go with a bridge quarterback because they can't get the top two guys that they want. I don't think nobody's taking Quinn Ewers that early. I don't think nobody's taking Jalen Milrow that early. Nobody's going to take a risk like that at all. So I do think that they're probably going to go bridge. The bridge, I might even see Sam Darnold going out there, possibly out to the Raiders. Him being the bridge if the Minnesota doesn't pay him. If Minnesota just lets him walk, I could see that a landing spot for Sam Darnold. And I think that might be actually be a really good marriage if they can get the weapons around and the
Yeah.
offensive line gets better. The Vegas just needs an overhaul. Let's just be real. They need an overhaul of talent. They need to get picks. I mean, I might even dangle Matt Crosby out there, see what the market is for him, because you really need a lot of stuff on your team. Kind of like how the Browns are doing with Miles Garrett.
No, I totally agree with that. I do. I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, look. The Raiders got one significant weapon, and that's Brock Bowers. That's probably the one guy I'm holding on to. I'm probably going to hold on to Brock Bowers, and I'm going to try to get everything I can for everybody else. And you're right. I do think that at some level there are some retooling that needs to go on with the Raiders. And I think specifically, I don't think if they're going to bring Sam Darnold in, he's not going to be a gap field quarterback. And the reason why is he's too damn
Mhm.
expensive. You know what I'm saying? After he just went and took
Yeah.
the Miami or the Miami the Minnesota Vikings to the playoffs, now he's got a little bit of oomph to work with, and I don't think you're going to get him at the cheap. So if you're going to bring Sam Darnold in, it better be your starting quarterback and not a gap feel.
So I'm thinking. See, when I mean like bridge, I'm thinking like 2 3 years. I can see him coming in there for like 2 3 years, giving him the Baker Mayfield deal, because I think that's probably what he's going to get after these last couple weeks of performance. I definitely think what's going to end up happening is he cost himself some millions, but I can see the Baker Mayfield. salary, 3 years, 100 M's, whatever guaranteed. That's perfect to me for him because I I don't know if the Raiders. I don't know. They're gonna have to. They got some stuff to do. They got some stuff to do. But Brock Byers is a great start. I knew he was gonna be like that. I knew he was gonna be like that when I seen him at. I said, this dude translates to the NFL like crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. With the Raiders, and this is the thing, Ben Johnson is really good where he's at. And he does look like a genius where he's at because he has a lot of really good weapons and a really good offensive line to where he could pull off some of those plays that he's pulling off. I don't think he gets away with some of the things he's pulling in Detroit with a team like the Raiders or even with the Vikings. I don't think he's getting away with those kinds of things. And I think he could get exposed. I think Ben Johnson could possibly get exposed going to a lesser team that can't pull off the things he was pulling off in Detroit. That's the only thing that worries me about Ben Johnson. That's the only thing. Everything else I'm pretty good with. But, yeah, I'm curious to see how he's going to be able to transition from an elite team down to a rebuild team or on the verge of rebuild team.
Yeah, I definitely think that's going to be interesting for sure. For sure for him because, like I said, I'm cool with the scheme, but like you said, the offensive line has to be on point. They have to because like when they did this, I know you remember the Jared Goff play with Chicago where he slipped and almost fell like he was a part of the play. And he threw. There's no way with the Raiders offensive line you're pulling that off. There's just no way. There's just no way. And I think offensive line is where his scheme starts at. It start with the line, and then we build out from
Hey, don't lean back. Your mic, every time you move, you only get like every other word. So you're gonna have to hold that mic up by your mouth or something, man. Because every time you move, it's like you start off and then it's like nothing, and then it comes back and then it's nothing. So definitely get that mic to where otherwise we're just hearing like it almost sounds like you're whispering. But okay. And then
Okay.
you see what I'm saying?
There we
Okay. Yeah. So
hear me
so
now?
let's say, for example, let's look at the playoffs and the games that we have. We kind of did a rundown yesterday, but I'm going to kind of get your thoughts on a couple of games and see which way you're leaning. Obviously, the Rams came off a very hot game against the Vikings. Philadelphia kind of hobbled in off that game against a battered, beat down Green Bay team. How do you see this Philadelphia Eagles and Rams game playing out? Now it's going to be played in Philadelphia, so there may be a little bit of snow on the ground out there or something. You never know. But how do you see the Rams going into Philly and trying to take care of business?
Yeah. So I feel about that game. I think it's going to be a very physical game. Put it like that, because I think both of these defensive lines, they bring the heat. They bring the
Yeah,
heat, and so I can definitely see it being in a trenches type of game. But ultimately, I think the home team pulls it out. I think Philly ekes it out. I think they do just enough to to pull the game off. I think Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have another Green Bay game. I think he's going to sit back and let Saquon go win the game like he did when they played the first. I think people forget they played the Rams the first time. He had 255 and 3 touchdowns, and so I'm kind of expecting something similar to that. Definitely, in that game. But I think it's gonna be a really good. I think it's gonna be a closely contested game. I don't think it'll be a blowout. But I think Saquon is going to rule the day.
yeah. I think if Green Bay's top three wide receivers don't go down with injury, that Green Bay could have actually beat the Eagles. I really do. I feel like they lost Dobbs, they lost Reed very quick and early in the game. Probably by the end of the second half, they had already lost their top three there because Tristan Watson was already out with his injury. And then he had a banged up Jordan Love who didn't even have feeling in his hand, a day and a half before the actual football game. I think if you had had a healthy Green Bay team going up against that Philadelphia team, that this could have very well been a different version of that game because they only won by 12. If you look at that game, they only won by 12. And I will tell you, one of the biggest plays of that game was when Goddard put that stiff arm twice up on old boy as he was going into the end zone. That was a big play, number one. The second big play for me was the way Saquon was able to navigate those holes that Philadelphia's offensive line was giving them. I thought Saquon did a hell of a job, and I thought Goddard did a hell of a job. Everybody else, I thought, played very pedestrian-like. Even and I hate to say because it's from my hometown, but Jalen Hurts is from Channelview, Texas, and Channelview and North Shore, which is where I'm from, there ain't but one street that separates them two cities. So I know exactly where Jalen Hurts comes from. But Jalen Hurts was very pedestrian-like in that game. He wasn't like MVP caliber Jalen Hurts. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, and like I said, I kind of attribute that to him not wanting to. I don't want to turn this ball over. Right now, our defense is dominating. We're knocking them out. We're laying everybody literally out. And I think at the end of the day, I think that's where Jalen Hurts was like, you know what? In the past, I'd have turned this ball over several times. Today, I'm just going to chill. I'm not going to have the gaudy numbers. Saquon's doing his thing. I'm going to get it into my playmakers' hands, and I'm going to let them control this game. And the defense was just they were so physical. I mean, Blankenship was hurting everybody. I
Oh,
was
for
looking at
sure.
Blankenship, be like a heat seeking missile. I'm watching him come down from the safety spot. And he's taking guys out. And I'm just like, you know what? It's a defensive game. Jalen, don't try to mess this up. Do not mess this up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's take a look at one of the other games that we got going on. There's the Chiefs and the Texans, which I think intrigues the hell out of me. Now, everybody's going to tell you, and I will tell you, until somebody beats the Kansas City Chiefs, they are the top dog right now. I mean, they are the top dog. But I really feel like there were several games during the season that the Chiefs just got really, really lucky. I think the very first game one against Baltimore, where the only thing that kept them from losing that game was the fact that Isaiah Likely's foot was just 1 inch into the white. Otherwise, I think they lose that game. And there's several other games down the road. I mean, they look very, very pedestrian-like, and I really feel like that the Texans, even though they're without Tank Dell, the way the Texans played coming into this thing, it was phenomenal, man. And I think this team is gelling at the right time. I think CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, and Dalton Schultz and Mixon are gelling at the right time. I would not be surprised one bit. I think it's going to be a close game. I do think that probably outright Kansas City might win that game. I think Texas covers, though. I think they got Texas, they're giving 9 points to Texas. So I want to say it's either 8.5 or 9 points to the Texans. So I definitely think they cover the spread. If not, they could possibly pull the upright stunner and keep them at home. I would not be so. It wouldn't surprise me if they did, to be honest with you. He said Jonathan Holloway said absurd just playing. Kenny, what? Are you there? But how do you see that Chiefs game going, Billy?
Yes, yes, I definitely feel like with this game, yeah. No, I definitely feel like with this game, it's one of those where if it's close, I just don't see nobody. And it's just because of 15. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It's 15. If this game is close, I think 15 can win. Like I think that point spread is crazy. 8.5. I'm like, oh no. You haven't seen the Chiefs play all year. If you picking an 8.5 point spread, that's not what they're gonna
Yeah.
do. It's gonna be a close game. I think CJ Stroud's gonna keep it close, but I think 15's the ball last. They driving down for a game drive. I just think that's what's gonna end up happening.
Yeah, absolutely. The only weak spot on that offense for me is in the deep ball, right? You got Kelsey, even Xavier Worthy is kind of a more, I want to say almost like a what's the word I'm looking for, man? He's going to do like the short in and outs or the short slants. That's the slant. He's going to play the slot receiver. Thank you, Jay. Thank you for remembering the word slot receiver. I think Xavier Worthy is more of like a slot receiver. He's going to do those quick slants, maybe across the middle or those little curl routes on the sideline. I don't think they have DeAndre Hopkins supposedly is supposed to be your deep ball guy that was supposed to replace the Rice and was supposed to replace the Tyreek Hills. And they kind of don't have that deep ball threat anymore. So they're going to have to do a lot of dinking and dunking, I think, to get that ball downfield. But I never, ever want to bet against Patrick Mahomes. I don't know how this guy, and again, there's a lot of memes out there that it doesn't have much research to do that shows that Kansas City gets favored by the referees a hell of a lot. I mean, they get favored by the refs a lot. So I think it's going to be a very hostile environment for the Texans to go into Kansas City and expect to come away with the win. I think it's going to be very difficult, but I do think that it's possible. It is. It's possible. Do I think it's going to happen? No. Do I think the Texans cover the spread? Hell yes. But it wouldn't surprise me. I'm telling you, if the one loss they take, I would not be surprised. And remember, the New England Patriots and Tom Brady went into the playoffs undefeated. They were supposed to be the next 72 Dolphins, and it didn't happen. Who took them out? Eli Manning and the Giants. I'm just saying it can happen at any given moment. And if you can do it against Tom, you can certainly do it against Patrick. And let's be honest, Kenny, for being honest with each other, Patrick Mahomes hasn't had a Patrick Mahomes-like season. He's been a lot more loose with the ball. He's had, 11 interceptions? That's very un-Patrick Mahomes-like. But we all know that when that playoff mode clicks and that light switch clicks, I think it's going to click for those guys. The only downside that could be rough for them guys, Kenny, is the fact they didn't play the last game of the season. They took all their starters out. So these guys haven't played in 2 weeks. Now you want them to come on the field and come out red hot. And that's going to be the telltale sign for me. Can they come out and have that can of steam and to take out the Texans? Or is this just going to be the Texans' day?
Yeah, I think that's the interesting part about it is I think that with this game is is it rushed or rest? Which one is going to be at play? Because if you rusty, don't let the Texans start getting confidence and building confidence and going forward because then now you're in a game now, and then all bets are off. When you're in that playoff game, they just got to be better than you that one day. They don't have to
Right.
be better for a series like in basketball. It's one day. And so I feel as though if Mahomes and them can knock off the rust pretty quickly, I think they'll be all right. If you don't, the Texans might. It's a possibility, especially with that defense, man. They showed me a lot last week. That defense, and then C.J. Stroud off of a fumble throws the ball downfield 34 yards to his guy, and it sparked the whole offense. The whole offense was sparked off that one play. And so
Right.
it's going to be a very interesting test, but I expect Andy Reid to figure this thing out.
The other game, I think that's going to be very interesting. Matter of fact, I am really excited to watch this game because I want to just see what this dude is, what I think he is, and that's Jaden Daniels and the Commanders going up against the Detroit Lions. Now, here's the caveat. You know the Detroit defense has been hurt quite a bit over this season, and they're hobbling a little bit on that defense into the playoffs because there's some injuries still left on that Detroit defense. Jay Daniels, man, he's just playing on another level. I mean, he's having a C.J. Stroud. He's playing just like C.J. Stroud did last year. I mean, he's just having that kind of year. And I tell you, man, I know Mike Hughes is all the guys that think that Chicago didn't pick the wrong quarterback, that they got it right with Caleb Williams. I don't see it that way. I see it that Washington stole the number one pick and got the number one pick at number 2. That's the way I see it. I think the Commanders have a really good shot at going in and taking care of business in Detroit. I'm not saying they're going to, but they have a really good shot at taking out Detroit. What do you think? How do you feel about the Detroit versus Washington?
I think got it. Yes, I think. Listen, when you got a guy like Jaden Daniels who has no fear, It's scary. It's scary because I don't think he fears going to Detroit. I don't think he look at Detroit as this unmovable object. He looks at them as, oh, this is a really good football team, but I don't care. I've been doing this all year. I think if it comes out to the end and it's a close game, give me Jaden Daniels for the dub. He's became that now this year. I watched him play. I'm like, he has no fear. Fourth down after fourth down after fourth down, I'm converting it. I'm converting it. I'm getting touchdowns. I'm doing what I got to do. And it's not like he has Minnesota's weapons. It's not like he has that out there. Scary Terry's an amazing receiver, but it's not like he has Justin Jefferson, all these other guys. He's doing it with the cast that he has. And what I like that I seen last week from him was no matter what, I don't care what's going on, he didn't look like a deer in headlights. He did not pull a Bo Nix and look like a deer in headlights because I thought after Bo Nix and them scored that touchdown, he looked like a deer in headlights. But I definitely think that the Commanders got a really good shot at winning this game. Now, would I pick it? No, but I would pick them to cover that spread. It's way too high.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think Washington definitely covers the spread. It's just going to be, can they take it outright? I think it really comes down, that game really comes down to Detroit's defense and how well that defense is going to play against that Jaden-led offense. I think that really is the key matchup there for Detroit. Can that defense come out and perform to the level that they performed at and continue that momentum? I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a hell of a good game. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on that game, especially if you're in Philadelphia. You're going to have a lot of eyes on that game. One thing I'm going to talk about real quick in the Super Bowl, the NFL has come out and said they're going to ramp up their security at the Super Bowl, given the devastating act that happened not too long ago with the guy driving the car into the crowd. You know, I'm glad to see they're stepping up security, to be honest with you, because that kind of worries me. You know, the day and age that we live in nowadays, you got a lot of crazy people in this world doing a lot of crazy things. And the Super Bowl, especially in New Orleans and the way it's situated, you could do a lot of devastation. And that really does worry me. And I'm hoping and I'm glad to see that the federal government and a lot of these agencies are going there and trying to ramp it up because they're going to absolutely need to have ramped up security given this game. Wouldn't you agree, Kenny? It's good to see that somebody finally do some proactivity with this.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that because that was so devastating what happened, and condolences to all the families that were affected by that,
Absolutely.
and it was just it was one of those where it was shocking because I'm like, man, we popped off the year like this, and then now to find out now thinking about the Super Bowl being there, yes, you have to be extra cautious because some of these crazy people out here want to make a name for themselves, so they thinking, oh, Super Bowl the best time to do it. Let me do something crazy, and it's just like just ramp up, be on high alert, and just be safe. Anybody going, be safe, man.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, all we can do is hope and pray that we have a nice, clean Super Bowl, no issues. That's what we're all praying for. That's what we're all hoping for. You know, because you got to admit, there's people in this world that don't want that to happen, Kenny. There's people in this world that want to try to make bad things happen, and we got to make sure we're staying vigilant. I will tell you, if you guys are flying during that time, again, make sure, you're doing all of the things that you need to do to be safe because it's a time period where people want to be known. Like you said, Kenny, they want to make a name for themselves, or they're out there for certain causes, that we don't necessarily agree with to do something. So this is going to be extra vigilant during this time period. Having said that, the last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here is there's a good basketball game on tonight. Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, you
Yes.
got the two number ones going at it tonight, Kenny. Wow. That's all I can say. Wow. I mean, I don't watch a lot of basketball unless you're a Houston Rockets team. I watch my Rockets, but I don't watch outside of that. But I'm going to watch this game because this game, in my opinion, has a lot of implications to see who the real number one team is, right? I mean, East versus West. You got the best versus the best in terms of the rankings. It's going to be interesting. And I hope and I pray that Oklahoma City gets beat because I'm a Houston Rockets fan. And we're sitting right there at number 2, Kenny, and I'm trying to get up to number 1. So I need Cleveland to go in there and handle business so I get one step closer to my dream, brother.
No, look, man, I watched the first round when they played the first time, man, and I was thoroughly entertained by that game. I thought Shea was Donovan Mitchell didn't even have a great game, but everybody else did. Everybody else did, and they're playing the OKC tonight. Now the big injury is Harvenstein. He's out tonight.
Okay.
He's gonna be out for like a week or so, and I think that is huge because
It is.
Allen and Mobley, they're gonna be there, and so who's dealing with them? So they're gonna be in some trouble, I think, tonight. It could get ugly, but with Shea, man, he's just different.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's going to be one of my favorite. Yeah, like I said, I'm curious to see how Chet Holmgren does. I'm curious to see how Shea Alexander does, and company, man. Because I think Chet Holmgren's going to have, like you said, he's going to have his hands full with Mobley, and I think Mobley, in my opinion, obviously is a little bit better player, than Chet Holmgren. I still think Chet Holmgren needs to put on some more weight. Every time he steps on the court, I get nervous for him that somebody's going to break his ribs or something because he's so thin. He's just so thin, and at some point they're going to have to put a little bit of weight on him if he's going to be competitive in this league because even I don't care how tall you are or how good your shot is, if you don't get a little bit of weight on you to bulk up to be able to handle the physicality, still, even though the NBA is less physical than it used to be, there's still a certain level of physicality to it. And you can still go down with them injuries if you're not careful. So I'd like to see Chet put on a little bit more weight. But I think Oklahoma City's going to take it. As much as I want Cleveland to win, I really just think Oklahoma City's playing their basketball right now. They're playing, it's just on point. But you're right. Not having Hartenstein in there is going to be a big drawback for them. And that's going to be the hurdle they're going to have to get over. And if Cleveland wants to show their dominance, this is the game for them to do it because of them not having Hartenstein. So they got like a shark in water. You see that blood? You better go after it. But what a time to be alive. Okay, folks. Definitely. Hey, go ahead, Kenny. I'm sorry. We saying something?
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, they're good. So tonight's going to be interesting. I'm definitely going to be – I never pull for the East, but tonight I'm going to be pulling for the East because I really want my Rockets to get closer and closer to that number 1 spot. But again, both teams are going to have their work cut out for them. Both teams are the best in the division, right, or in the NBA right now, 1 and 2 respectively. So it's going to be interesting. Having said that, folks, this is the end of the show. If you've enjoyed this show, please like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. Because those subscribers are what help us continue to reach out and get to other people further out. And real quick, Robert Wardell says, OKC will never win a championship until the NBA gives us back the Sonics. Durant was the Sonic. You're doing right. I remember, Robert. Hey, look, I'm a UT guy, so I know exactly where Durant went. And I'm not a Seattle guy, but hey, I don't know if they'll win a championship, but they do look good right now, Rob. You got to give OKC their credit. They do look good right now. And I want the Sonics to come back. Kenny, I don't know if you want the Sonics to come back. I want the Sonics to come back. I miss that uniform. But how do you feel? Kenny, you want the Sonics to come back?
Yeah, I think Seattle deserves a basketball team. I want the Sonics to be back in Seattle for sure. They deserve it. Their fans are amazing up there. I don't know, look at the Seattle Seahawks fans. Look how they act. That is an amazing town for any sport. So yes, the Sonics need to come back. We signed them.
Yeah,
bring them back.
Yeah. I think me and Kenny share the same belief that in Congress or whoever it is that makes this team happen in the NBA life, they need that 12th man to come back and get this team back. So we'll see what happens. We'll continue to see how that goes, and if they do get it when the NBA does decide to expand. But again, if you like this content, please like, share, and subscribe. It's your boy Jay McLovin, Kenny freaking Casanova in the house. And we will catch you guys on the next go around. Until then, y'all have a good one. We out.